Hi, welcome to another BlackHat. I'm Dan Kaminsky. This is my 6th BlackHat. That is not the impressive part. The impressive part is that it's my grandmother's 3rd BlackHat. My grandma is more elite. Wrote a couple books. Used to be part of Cisco. Used to be part of Avaya. I'm presently partnered with a company called IO Active. They're a really interesting consulting firm up in the Seattle area. That's not good. One of the blue hat hackers. So I've been looking at Vista for the last N months. The amount of it I can tell you about it, nothing. However, there's this huge track tomorrow that's going to talk about some of that stuff. We don't have much time, so we're just going to blast through stuff, and unfortunately some of the live demos are going to have to be cut. But what are we here to do today? You may or may not notice, I never tell people what I'm going to be doing in advance because, well, I don't always know what's going to work. But what we're going to do today is we're going to discuss tools for enforcing network neutrality. We're going to discuss the results of scanning 2.4 million SSL servers. We're going to fix online banking. Okay, not entirely, but a little. We're going to fix a security hole that I put in OpenSSH during my first BlackHat talk. We're going to make entropy recognizable. Now, this is the useful thing for crypto systems like OpenSSH. This is really useful for fuzzing. And for those who are paying attention in the security world, fuzzing's gotten a lot more relevant. And of course, it being me, pretty pictures. New for this year, useful pretty pictures. Even if they're at 100 megapixel. Don't believe me? The end of this talk, we're talking about visual bin diff. But for now, enforcing network neutrality. First section here. Well, telcos have effectively stated that they wish to spy upon and selectively censor traffic, so as to maximize revenue from those who will pay the most to see their traffic pass unhindered. This is, oddly enough, a familiar problem for us. Alice and Bob are in prison and are attempting to communicate without the warden interfering. This is the kind of stuff that you think about when you're starting to learn security, you go to the academic instructions. Somehow, academic instruction became my ISP. I just work here. Now, you may or may not believe the premise, but hey, just quoting Comcast here, to accommodate the needs of our customers who do choose to operate VPN, Comcast offers the Comcast at Home professional product. This product will cost $95 a month. We'll afford you with standards that differ from the standard residential product. You guys didn't think this whole network neutrality thing had anything to do with video, right? Do you understand how much money that YouTube loses every month? You've got a friend or a kid who works for minimum wage, your kid's making more money than YouTube. It's actually about $1,100 a year per telecommuter. Granted this is a tech talk, but can't ignore the geopolitics. Oil prices have tripled. We're probably going to see a significant uptake in the amount of telecommuters. Get a lot more telecommuters, get them paying $100 a month, you're making $45 billion a year. It has nothing to do with video. So now, the assumption on my part is that pretty soon, most companies are going to realize it's a grab for their pocketbook. And the debate about network neutrality is going to leave, should the network be neutral, and become, is it possible to detect non-neutral networks? And the answer to that question is yeah. TCP bandwidth estimation, an elegant weapon for a more civilized age. TCP automatically determines the amount of available bandwidth between any 2 points. If you have 2 nodes that are using the same network, they do not actually directly send packets to each other. Rather, they detect interference caused by the behavior of the other nodes. Use that interference to tune the particular speed at which they'll communicate. Now, in this model, in this environment, very elegant, I must add, dropped packets are a source of information about the other traffic going on the network. TCP is using interference. If we can control the interference, we can actually learn about what the network is defining as interference. So check this out. Active network programming. Yeah, I think I'm just going to be talking about TTLs for every single talk I ever do at BlackHat. one of the things you can do when you send traffic on a network is you can specify how many hops your traffic is going to go. You do this by changing a value in each of your packets called the TTL, the time to live. Now, TCP, what it discovers is, I'm going to send traffic at 5 kilobytes a second. If I exceed 5 kilobytes a second, packets start dropping. So what do? We exceed 5 kilobytes a second for 1 hop. Nothing happens. 2 hops. Nothing happens. 3 hops. Nothing happens. 5 hops. Oh, now packets start dropping. Oh, now I've determined that the bottleneck on my particular session is 5 hops away. This is actually a generically useful thing you can do. And you don't need to use any custom tools that I've written, although I am writing them. You can just use hping. Hping gives you everything you need to go ahead and inject some traffic on top of a fully loaded link and have it go 1 hop, 2 hops, 3 hops, etc. Why is this about network neutrality? Because we can control the contents of those extra packets. Not just send extra traffic, we can send extra traffic from Viacom, extra traffic from NBC, extra traffic from Procter & Gamble. The idea is that we can actually modify what we're proposing as interference, and we can see, does it or does it not cause packets to drop? Now you might say, but Dan, what if they're using a filter that requires fully established TCP sessions in order to control whether a preferred service is allowed? Well, it's kind of cute, Google, a bunch of other companies actually have code that lives on the client. And if you have code that lives on the client and code that lives on the server, you can have the server pretend to be Viacom. You can have the client pretend to be responding to Viacom. And so, as far as the network in the middle sees, oh, there's a full great session going on between you and Viacom. Packets come in, ACKs go back, it's all great. Network has no idea there's anything in the middle. You can also do content preference. You can have it say, we're going to send some encrypted traffic over this link. Let's see if encrypted traffic is marked as specially interfering. You might say, encrypted traffic? Why would they interfere with encrypted traffic? I thought this was about video. Well, let's look at the history. Well, first of all, they did, right? I mean, that was the whole point about blocking VPN traffic. This is why Washington State had to go ahead and take a huge number of people off of Comcast and put them on some other network because Comcast was blocking the state VPN system. So A, well, they did it. That's always good in a court of law. B, let's look at the international precedent of any time you put people behind a restricted network, they try to find a way to hop their way out. And when they try to find a way to hop their way out, often one of the best things to do is to apply encryption. The problem is, from the new model being proposed, and this is theft of service. You might have some malicious, you might have some content that could be charged extra for inside those encrypted packets. Now, let's look at what encryption is actually used for legitimately. We're talking legitimately from their perspective. A, workplaces that make money from their employees at home. And B, e-commerce sites that make money from consumers at home. In both scenarios, you have money being involved. And with money being involved, you have an increased ability to pay. So one could completely legitimately imagine a future where if you want to route encrypted traffic over the publicly available common carriers, you have to pay extra. That's something as a security professional that terrifies me. It is enough of a pain in the ass to get people to adopt secure solutions without, I wonder if the telco is going to filter my traffic. So we got to do something about this. And while I can't do much on the legal side, but can I give you guys a test, a mechanism to discover if this kind of filtering is in place? Yeah, I can do that. So, moving on to more technical subjects, SSL. SSL is a fun system, has a couple of rules. First of all, do not put things you would not want to be public in a public key. There's a reason they're called a public key. You would think this was obvious. Do not put the same key on multiple boxes. SSL does not have perfect forward secrecy. If two boxes have the same key, they can read each other's traffic. No one would ever ship 2 devices with the same key. These are the things you find when you hit every IP address in the world. There's some weird stuff out there. I don't exactly know what's going on in terms of sending traffic out there. All I can say is that I've actually removed some details from this talk because I'm just not as confident about them as I'd want to be. But again, if you are the sort of site that does not want people knowing all your internal DNS names, be very careful what SSL certs you let the public scan for, because SSL certs actually assert a name of a host. For example, if you have a honeypot whose purpose is to trick hackers into attacking it, you might not want to call the box honeypot.yourcompany.com. And if you do this, you might not want to have it be front and center on the SSL cert. So, what did I see when I scanned all these boxes? Good news. 90% of keys were only on one box. 9 out of 10. Awesome. Bad. 10% of keys were repeated. A lot. Like, so much that 1 out of 3 SSL servers had a repeated key. 10% of keys caused 2 out of 3 SSL servers to be in a defined insecure scenario. I'm not going to name names, but there are a depressing number of VPN concentrators and embedded devices that have fixed SSL keys. They burn one in at the office. They think, oh, well, you know, it's not like we're getting it signed, so what's the problem? People have to randomly trust keys anyway. Well, the problem is I just sniff some traffic for you managing a particular VPN concentrator, and I just hand that off to SSL dump with the key that I have on, you know, the one that I bought off the shelf, and now I'm decrypting all your management traffic. Really depressing reality. And again, not naming names. There is a site that really should know better, who probably has people in this room, who probably knows I'm talking about them right now, that appears to have, you know, 60,000 machines, servers with the same SSL key. Wow, that's awful. You really should know better. Caveat, the absolute numbers are pretty sketchy. There's boxes that have keys that move around. Someone, I don't know what's going on. Someone in this room might know more. But in the meantime, there's a much more obvious SSL flaw that we can go ahead and address. And that involves the world's most depressing Google search. If you search for why is this secure, you will see site after site that has a login page that says, please put your credentials in here. Now this one's great. Social security number or tax ID. Why is this secure? Well, it sure ain't secure because that's SSL, because that form's not coming in over SSL. I'm not joking when it's like my grandma, who granted has been at 3 BlackHats, can hack 26% of the top 50 banks in the country. Dear God. It's called you change HTTPS to HTTP. There's no authentication on it being an S, and so one character and you win. Just saying, maybe we wouldn't have as bad of a problem with phishing if we weren't training users to trust a little icon on a web page. Look at this. This is great. 26% of the top 50 banks, they all put in this little lock. I did not know there was this much clip art for locks, but it's impressive. So how did we get this problem? Why are all these banks putting these forms on that we know are insecure? They know. I mean, I'd love to take credit for discovering this, but come on, people have been whining about this for like 2 years. I've got a reason for actually bringing it up now. It's called a solution. But the choice is here. Either A, you force everyone coming to the bank's website to use SSL. This doesn't fly because